broadcaster, Mark Gubuza. All right, Mark is with us this week. And Mark, right off the bat, if you had a vote for AL MVP this year, who are you giving it to?
You want me to keep my job here with the Angels? Nah. I look at the numbers, and I go back to the last series when the Yankees were in Anaheim. Judge hits the home run, wins that game. Ohtani hits home runs on the other two games, and the Angels win. What I'm seeing with his numbers on the mound this year, I mean, Coney, you dominated on the mound quite a bit. He's as good as any pitcher in baseball right now, and he's putting up these numbers still offensively with 34 home runs. He's just under 90 RBIs, the triples, and his batting average is better this year. But Judge, I'm looking at, wow, he's got a chance at a triple crown, and he's got 90-some walks, his on-base percentage. All those things are pretty incredible. He's leading the Yankees. I mean, with all the injuries they've had, it's a really, really tough call. But seeing Shohei every day, I'm just in shock at what he does on the mound. And then still, I know as a pitcher, after I pitch, I could barely walk. He's dealing with the 98-mile-an-hour fastball the next day, and he's crushing the baseball. I think he's the best player maybe we've ever seen it for a period of time over 2 years. But it's tough to go against Judge right now. It's a really tough call. It really is a tough call. I'll tell you what, I want to say Judge because of the numbers and because they're winning. But I also want to say Ohtani because he's doing stuff that no one's ever done. I mean, they always compare him to Babe Ruth, but his numbers are way better than Babe Ruth, what he did at that point. So Ohtani, he's the best player in the world. I'll keep it at that. I think he's the best player I've ever. Coney, we know we played with George Brett, Bo Jackson. This is stuff he did, but I just you put those two guys together, and Trouty, watching him, Mike Trout, play all these years. I've never seen anything like what he's doing. I think he's a better pitcher now than at any point I've ever seen him throw. And I think he's going to get better with his 100-mile-an-hour sinker. So I'm leaning towards Ohtani, but if I think if Judge continues in the stretch down the end and he gets over 62 home runs, it's tough to go against that.
Look, we should have put this out there right off the bat. Like, this is such a interesting topic to discuss because it's really difficult to talk up one player without making it sound like you're putting down the other, and we're definitely not doing that here. Look, Shohei Ohtani is the best player I've ever seen. Like you said, Mark, like over these last 2 years, he's the best player that any of us have ever seen. Like Aaron Judge has been the big story this year, and since MVP voting is so subjective, it's really easy to interpret everything as like, oh, you're talking about Judge, that means you must not think much of Ohtani. No, complete opposite right there. I think the other topic is like the other debate here is like the spirit of the MVP criteria. It's really subjective. So when you think about it that way, guys, David, I'd like to know what you think about this. Are we at the point where, look, every year, if Shohei Ohtani's doing half of what he's doing this year, he's the most outstanding player in this sport, period. Because he's something we've never seen before, does that warrant a change to either the award criteria or the creation of a completely different award?
Valid questions all the way around. Gooby and I both, I cover the Yankees, Gooby covers the Angels. So obviously there's always going to be an inherent bias in there. As Gooby said, do I want to keep my job? I totally get that. And he gets to see Ohtani every day. I'm jealous. I'd love to watch Ohtani every day too and cover him. I mean, he's the eighth wonder of the world in my mind. I mean, we're still processing how this guy's doing that. As Mark put it perfectly in terms of the day after I pitched, I didn't even want to come to the ballpark. I was sore. Jump in the pool, the hot tub, whatever. I was a noodle. I could do nothing the next day after I pitched. Playing every day, and he wants it. So I think I still can't process how he's doing this, Mark. I mean, we're watching something we've never seen before. We don't know how to put it into context. I mean, who is this guy? How is he doing this? So yes, he's a wonder, without a doubt. And with all that being said, Aaron Judge is having one of the greatest offensive seasons in the history of the game. I mean, it's just remarkable that we have these two seasons going on at the same time. If Aaron Judge wasn't having that kind of historic season, Ohtani would be running away with the MVP award again. So it just shows you what kind of year both of them are having, and the fact that Aaron Judge is even at this point, maybe ahead in terms of the writers. Probably the survey I take thinks, mostly thinks that probably he's ahead right now. But the fact that he's beating Ohtani shows you what kind of year that Judge is having right now. Just 2 remarkable years.
Are either of you, James too, like are any of you like hung up on the wordage of the award, like how valuable a player is versus how outstanding a player is?
Yeah, that's a great question, because you always thought a most valuable player is a guy that's going to get you to the postseason or potentially win a World Series. That being said, most valuable player he's the best player. And the one thing I want to say is the beauty of this between the conversation. I know it's a lot of stuff going on between East Coast, West Coast. It's kind of fun that at least we're talking about baseball. I mean, it's at the forefront of all the conversations. For me, that's the best. No longer we're talking, the NFL season has started up, which is so cool, but all of a sudden we're talking about baseball and the MVP. You got the Yankees, you got the Angels, Aaron Judge, and then what we're seeing now from Shohei Ohtani again. I came into the season this year saying, and obviously it lucks out coming in spring training. I said, I think Shohei is going to be better this year than he was last year. And everyone's like, how can that be? Because he finally figured out his body. And I think that's why he's better this year. I think he's going to be better next year. Now, how long he can do this, I don't know. But going back to your original question, I think I always, you always want to see a team in the postseason. You want to see the best players in the big show. And Aaron Judge is going to will his team into the big show. I mean, because they've had some guys injured, some guys that not put together the years they anticipated for the Yankees. And just watching him in that last series, and even when the Angels were out in New York, I'm like, this guy is not human either. I mean, both these guys are just not human beings. That's all you can describe them. Cody,
so two freaks of nature. Yeah.
I mean, we're freaks in another different way, but these are freaks of nature.
This is a great way to celebrate 2 unique superstars doing their own thing in their own way. And this debate, I don't really get hung up on the valuable aspect or the team aspect. It's an individual award. And as we've seen, this isn't like football and basketball where one superstar can control so much of the game. You only come to bat so many times in a game. A pitcher will only take the ball so many days. As we saw with Mike Trout over the last 10 years, you could have the best player in the game and not make the postseason. So I wouldn't want to maybe punish is too harsh a word, but you wouldn't want to punish Ohtani or Trout in past years for having struggling teammates. So I think you would just reward the best player. And in my mind, I think I would give it to Judge just because of the historic nature of the season. If he was only hitting 52 home runs instead of chasing 62, then Ohtani's probably the MVP. But what Judge is doing, as Coney mentioned, is one of the great offensive seasons we've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, and one thing the other day, for instance, for Shohei Ohtani, he's facing the last 4 starts have been against the Jays, the Astros, and then Seattle. All 4 teams going into postseason. His ERA during that stretch, 0.67. I mean, he's been dominating. He went 7 innings against Seattle the other day. He double homed the first run, walked, and then eventually scored the second run, and they won 2-1. So he did everything himself to win the game. But then as the process, we're showing that the next day we're showing it on our broadcast, because you know what, you want to be fair because we love the game of baseball. Aaron Judge hitting 2 mammoth home runs the very next day. So I'm like,
yes.
This is like these guys are like heavyweight fighters going out at the end. And I think it's really, and right now, Shohei Ohtani is scheduled to pitch the last game of the season. Now, as weird as it sounds, it might come down to the MVP voting and the way everyone's swayed one way or the other way. The last game, what if Shohei Ohtani last game of the season throws a perfect game? And Coney, you know a lot about perfect games. What if he throws a perfect game the last game of the season? I mean, but by that point, Judge may have 67 home runs for all we know too. But it's beautiful. I love the fact is, and there's some passionate people, Coney, you know that, because there's a lot of passionate writers out in New York. They're going hard on everybody in in Anaheim, they're all saying, "What kind of city is Anaheim?" They go, "By the way, it's beautiful weather every day of the year, and it's a great little city." But it's funny. It's funny how it goes. But that's what I love about the passion of the conversation with sports. I mean, because you're going to be one way or the other way. We're all blessed to be able to see these two guys play.
Yeah, Gooby, I guess that's the question I have for Ohtani as we narrow this down a little bit. It seemed like last year his offense was a little better than his pitching, and this year it's reversed a little bit where maybe just numbers-wise, his pitching's probably eclipsed his offense. Both are great, but it seems like he's taking that next step in pitching. He's going 100-mile-an-hour sinkers now. I mean, what do you see in a difference in terms of his pitching this year compared to last year?
And Coney, also, he's thrown. I was watching a game the other day, and I'm like, wait a minute, he's throwing it like almost like he used to do, changing his arm angle on his slider now. So he's throwing a slider at 85 and the next slider from a different angle with a different horizontal break compared to a vertical break on the same exact pitch. That's 6 miles an hour differential in speed. Then he's throwing a cutter at 93. His sinker, and he was joking with me the other day. He goes, and his interpreter Ipe were saying, "I'm going to be a better pitcher next year because I'm going to use that pitch a little bit more." And I'm thinking, wow, can you imagine if you're working that lower part of the strike zone along with his four-seamer upstairs? It's going to make that splitter down and his other pitches down better because then he's got, hitters can't distract lower part of the strike zone and let go of those pitches out of his zone because now they got to deal with a fastball down there. So I think we always joke around Coney and call him the creative one, kind of like a Maddox. And I even showed something with you the other day when your different deliveries you used to have to be able to just to change arm angles and throw off the timing of hitters. He is so good at throwing off the timing of hitters, even though the majority of his pitches are pretty firm. Then he'll drop a 75-mile-an-hour curveball. And I actually, during broadcast, I'll just laugh. I go, "It ain't right. It ain't right. You should be able to do this stuff."
Yeah.
I mean, a 100-mile-an-hour fastball alone should say, "Okay, that's all I'm going to throw." But throwing that in there, I was like, wow, this guy's incredible.
He's so good.
Yeah, his pitching to me this year is just different level stuff. Go ahead, James. Yeah.
I was just saying, it almost like he's underrated at both hitting and pitching because it distracts from how good he is at both. Him being a superstar hitter, it almost like people don't appreciate how great he is as a pitcher because he's also such a great hitter. He's cut down his walk rate this year. His strikeout rate is higher. It didn't have much more to go. It's hard to improve on a strikeout rate that was already that good. It's even better this year. And when he should be breaking down more as he's carrying more fatigue than a normal player would, he's actually getting better. How is this happening?
Yeah, and he's the fastest guy going home to first in baseball on average. See, when I heard that stat, I go, "That's just not right." But then I sway back and I think of Aaron Judge. I'm thinking, the guy that intimidated me the most, Albert Bell, was that guy. He's standing on the plate. I'm thinking, I'm going against Aaron Judge, and even going against Dave Winfield. I'm thinking, okay, I gotta throw something in and make him uncomfortable at the plate. But then he would probably look up at me and go, "That ain't working. That ain't working." And then he hits the ball the other way out. See, whenever I face the home run hitter, Coney, you're probably the same way. If they go the other way against me and hit the ball out, that's not a good feeling because usually home run hitters hit mistakes. They pull the ball, whether lefty or righty. But when you're going the other way and it's flicking the ball about 450, and he's playing really good defense, he's running well. I mean, I'm thinking, wow. I mean, you know what? I get swayed every day with this whole conversation too, but I love the fact that the passion everybody has for it. But, I love watching teams succeed, and I love what Aaron Judge, he bet on himself. Wow, that's not an easy thing to do. He betted on himself to be healthy this year, and he's performing at the highest level. Shohei's the same thing. He's betting on himself going out there. If Phil Nevin ever gives him a day off, he's really bad. He wants to play every day. He had 155 games last year, I think. He's going to have about maybe 6 or 7 days off, and it's not by his design. He wants to play every day. So I always appreciate guys that want to be out there every day. Next level too. So I like the Astros a lot. I don't know if I value innings as much anymore as far as I used to when it comes to Cy Young in baseball. I look, well, strikeouts are obviously it's not that it's easier to get a strikeout now, but strikeouts always get your attention. But I look at, whips. If you have a whip below 1 or right at 1, I mean, that's dealing. And McClanahan for the Rays is phenomenal too. I mean, I think we're in an age where it's really fun just to see. I still say, and I'll stand by this, even though there's, you have the shifts on and all this stuff, and people talk about that, pitch clocks, everything. There's better athletes now in our game than any point that I've ever seen. And I think we're going to enjoy this going forward, because I think we're trying to improve the game better where everyone can actually see it and enjoy it. That I'm loving where we're at in baseball right now.
Yeah, how about Ohtani? Yeah, exactly. How about Ohtani sneaking in there? He's probably in the top 3 right now. I know, James, you probably have some ideas on that too in terms of numbers. Ohtani keeps going. He's making a big rush here. On the mound, he's better. Gooby described it perfectly. I mean, this guy's a monster on the mound right now. He's figuring things out pitching wise, and we still don't know how good he's going to be on the mound.
It's probably Verlander's to lose, but Ohtani's right there with Cease and McClanahan as well. And how much, if any, extra credit of sorts would you give to Ohtani, knowing that he's also carrying the responsibilities of being a major bat in the lineup too? How do you have the scouting meetings and all this, that he's doing the ace of the staff thing and the carrying the lineup thing at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, and with the universe of DH, pitchers aren't hitting anymore, but he's hitting every day when he's on the mound. And I remember I was joking around one game, he went like 7 innings, I think it was, and he was just bringing it. And so the 8th inning comes around in his plate appearance, and he's swinging as if he's in a long drive contest at a golf tournament. I mean, he's still swinging so hard. I'm thinking, I would swing like that, I would fall right on the ground and I'd be gone. Here's the one thing I thought was incredible the other day against Seattle. He threw a sinker at 101 miles an hour to top of the first. Bottom of the first, he hit the double off the wall, that exit velocity of 107 miles per hour. I'm thinking, how's that possible? I mean, how do you throw 101 miles an hour, a sinker too, which is hilarious that he was throwing that, and then hit a double off the wall that hard in the same inning? I mean, it's just not human stuff. So, when you talk about, conversation for Cy, he's going to get over 200 strikeouts. And right now he's at 196 and 148 innings pitched. It's unreal. And what he does with guys in scoring. It's funny when he goes, he kind of, I wouldn't say casually goes through when there's no one on, but when there's a guy in scoring position, it's like next level Ohtani. That's when he starts really bringing it. And then he starts creating these different pitches. I'm thinking, only person I said I knew that could do that, and I saw in person and live many times with you, Coney, creating arm angles and stuff like that, and different deliveries. I'm like, how do you do that and still maintain balance and still throw that and still throw strikes? Because he was a guy early in his career had a walk in his game on the mound. He doesn't have it anymore. He's about almost 6-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio right now, which is impossible when you throw that hard.
Yeah, we know we've always known he's a good hitter, but we didn't know he was going to be this good on the mound. I mean, you kind of thought he could be, but I didn't realize he had that high of an aptitude that he could create that much the way you're describing it. Yeah. Mixing in that 2-seamer now. I mean, wow, he's a monster on the mound now. So I think he's in the top 3. He's probably going to run the table in the rest of his starts. So yeah, it's Verlander, Dylan Cease, and Shohei Ohtani, I think, in the American League Cy Young race right now.
Yeah.
It is going to be such an awesome final 2.5, 3 weeks when you just look at these races and just how Shohei Ohtani is going to factor into all of them, because here we are talking about him in multiple categories, right?
Yeah.
Insane. Mark, thanks so much for taking the time here with us, talking about Ohtani, talking about your time in the big leagues with David as well. And like I said, it's we definitely have a lot of New York fans. We love our California fans as well. So it's always going to be an interesting topic right through the end. We're looking forward to seeing what Ohtani is able to do. We're looking forward to you calling the action.